theme that goes throughout the day. None of us compared notes. We just knew which sort of segment we'd be talking in. It's quite ironic to be standing up here talking about being a good father and good husbands, but a good father especially, or maybe the right word is hypocritical, when just last night, I failed as a father. Not a big one. I lost my temper, and I really try not to. I try so hard not to I've got 2 girls, 11 and 13. Shay, my youngest, Tom, one of my best mates, is sitting in front here. He knows very well. She's the most sensitive little person. You've got to treat her with kid gloves, excuse the pun. And she's so gentle and soft. But Lord bless that child. Every day she breaks a glass. The best glasses we have in the house. I don't know why she's drinking juice out of the best glasses, but it is broken. And every day I exercise the most extreme grace. And I'm like, don't worry, my sweetheart, because I know she's gentle and soft. It's okay, we all make mistakes. Just try harder next time. So last night, Christy and I, my wife, we'd been fasting alcohol. And we were breaking the fast last night with a delicious glass of red, some Alto, right? And I put the glass of red down on the table, and I made pizza for them, and we were having burgers, and the meal was prepped, and the glass of red wine was standing there, and we had Survivor, the finale, the latest season, the American, on the screen. It was a perfect moment. And of course, Shay went and knocked that glass over, and I was livid, because you know when you break a glass and you've got dogs and kids, it stops everything. Immediately we got to clean up the freaking wine, and we got to get out the torch and lay the torch low so you can see the little glistening glass. And so in my head, I'm just playing through what a mission it is. The food's going to be cold, and my glass of wine is lying shattered on the grass. And I was like, and it's good to be, the authoritarian and a disciplining father, but there was just that, when you cross that line a little bit, when you go into that, and I went there, and immediately I just saw her little face, and her face wasn't angry at me. It wasn't just that she got a fright, but she was so broken that she had disappointed me. And what I saw was that, and that made me disappointed in myself, and then I took it up another little notch before I could bring myself down, and I walked away, and I was like, oh, geez, now I know this is going to take me an hour at least to get her back to the jovial mood everyone was in before we could sit down and have that meal. So I failed as a father, and that's what today is all about, is knowing that we will fail as fathers. It's impossible for us to be the perfect dad we want to be. But once you make that realization, you realize that you've got to be progressing. I remember before we had kids, I was one of those guys who would, there were a couple of doors with holes in them. Never hit a woman in my life, but man, if I lost my temper and there was a door close to me, there would be a hole in it. And this good friend of mine over here, one day, when we just started we had our first little girl, he said to me, I don't mean to speak into your life, but I just want to say that, I don't know how, if like the kids, I don't know how they'll perceive that. And no one had ever said that to me, Tom. I don't know if we've ever spoken about it before, but I tell you what, speaking into my life, I didn't realize what effect my anger was having. Even though I was never hurting anyone physically, the anger outburst. You see, I'm a very patient person. I exercise great patience, but I tell you, I get to a point. And then I realized I can't get to that point anymore. I now have kids. And Tom speaking into my life about that really changed that. Nullified that. That was the last time I injured a door again in my house. But then you have an outburst like last night, and I remember that I've broken my law again, my personal thing that I'm trying. Anyway, the point of the matter is, we can't be perfect, but we can try. And I'm supposed to be talking on leading fathers, and it's something that is so hard to do. And so easy to do, especially if you've been a father, but hard to do because you know the pitfalls. But just before we get to me talking about how I became a father, which Heinz mentioned through adoption, I have to just give you a little lead up as to what my background kind of is, in the sense that I went to Pretoria Boys High School, and after school I went to the Navy. And I went to the Navy because we had recently watched Top Gun, and it was the only defense arm that actually wore white suits. So I did my conscription in the Navy, my military service, which anyone under the age of 50 won't know what I'm talking about. And anyone over the age of 50 will say, we got to bring it back. But the point of the matter is I served in the Navy. So I had some interesting jobs when I started out. I'm sure most of us can say until you found your vocation, you did a lot of interesting things. But one of the most interesting things that came after the Navy was I was into martial arts, a lot of martial arts. I did Kyokushinkai karate. I was about to grade for my black belt. And my sensei said to me, listen, he's starting a bodyguarding company. He's been to Israel. He went to train with a proper Owens, and he's starting a bodyguarding company, and he's doing a course for bodyguards, and don't I want to join it because, it's going to be amazing, and he's going to start this company, we can make a lot of money as bodyguards, and, I've got the training. So I was like, wow, that's amazing. So here I came, this young man, early 20s, and little did I know what I was getting myself into. But anyway, I got there with all these ex-military people. Lots of ex-military owns, and we learned how all kinds of amazing things, shooting 9mm shotguns, Uzis, high-speed driving, hostage rescue, all kinds of crazy stuff. And so very exciting. And then we actually got to do a few bodyguarding jobs as well. We went out there and we were looking after people. It is the most boring job I've ever done in my life. And my first few jobs was literally watching wealthy people who were coming from the States or the UK, and they wanted to shop in Joburg, and they wanted to walk around all day. And we'd follow them around with our suits on and speaking into our sleeves and looking at suspicious people and speaking into our sleeves. And it was exciting for the first 27 minutes. And then you spend 8 hours doing that. You very quickly become disenchanted and realize that this is not what the movie Bodyguard was about. And so very soon after that, and I think to my parents' joy, I left the world of bodyguarding with all the incredible knowledge I learned there, which I enjoyed, and then went into the entertainment world. I dabbled a bit in business studies, went into the entertainment world, and for the next 10, 15 years, I got into that. But in my late 30s, I once again found myself in a position where harking back to that, where I had to look after two individuals. It was a very interesting gig and would prove to be the most pointed one in my life, because essentially what started out as a protection job, security job, turned into me being taken captive. I wasn't sure if I was going to tell this story, but Heinz said I should, even though it's, yeah. I was taken captive. I was subjected to, I suppose you could say, forms of torture. I was verbally abused. I was sleep deprived. I was malnourished. I was even spat on, and at one point I was urinated on. And I honestly thought I wasn't going to make it through until my wife arrived back from a trip. And that's the first time she left me alone with the kids for 10 days. I couldn't wait to get back to work so I could rest. It gave me a glimpse of what it takes to be a mother. Just a glimpse. And I'm so glad to be honoring our wives today as we speak, because let me tell you what, what they do and what they're able to do, is incredible. But today it's all about being a father. And the angle I come at fatherhood is, of course, adoption. Heinz mentioned that. And how we came into adoption is, Christy and I decided we want to have kids. It was in my late 30s. And we thought the minute we stop using what you use, we were married, and the minute you stop using things, you'll fall pregnant next month, right? Because that's how it works. I mean, I want to have children, I'm going to have children. And so month 1 went by, and month 2, and month 3, and then you start getting a little worried. And everyone says, oh man, it's only been a few months, don't worry. But you worry. And month 4, and slowly but surely you get to a year in, and you're not pregnant. Now, husbands, fathers, if you've ever been through this, you know what it's like when you look into your wife's eyes every month, because nature has a way of telling you you're not pregnant. And it's not a nice way. It's very explicit. You are not pregnant, in case you were wondering. And it's hard and it's harsh. It's hard for you as a man who wants to be a father, but it's much worse, I think, for a woman because it's so undeniable you're not pregnant. So we went for a year really struggling. I remember at the end of that year, I went for a mountain bike. I live in the South Peninsula, so we've got lots of mountains. I went up to one of my favorite mountains, R.E.A.L, and I was sitting at the top looking out over the bay, and I was praying to God. I was laying my heart out as we do, and I was saying, Lord, it's been a year that we've been trying. All we want is to be fathers, and He knows my heart. He knows my wife's heart. We were switched on. We'd traveled together. We'd spent time together overseas. We were so close, but we knew in our hearts there was a hole that only a child could fill. And nothing, our lives were perfect, but nothing could come in and replace that space. And I said, God, please, I promise you, I will be a good Christian father. You know that. I will raise those children as a Christian father. You know that. I will teach them everything I know about you. I'll teach them everything. Please, God. And I was sitting up there begging, sobbing, tears running down my face. And when a thought comes into your mind and it's not yours, it almost interrupts your thought process. Because you're on a way. And I just heard this voice, not audibly, but internally. And the sentence was simple. All I heard was, first you must adopt. First you must adopt. I'm like, okay, it's not a foreign concept. In fact, Christy and I had been fans of the Friends TV show for years. And Chandler and Monica adopted. And so that kind of planted the adoption seed. And we thought, one day we will do that. We will adopt one day. When the time is right. So I came back down on the mountain, but this really sat with me because it stopped me in my tracks. Came off the mountain, I got home, I took my wife aside, I said, listen, I had the most interesting time up there, because we're spending a lot of time engaging with each other. When times get tough, her and I, we kind of hunker down together, we share our thoughts. I said, well, I was up the mountain, and I really think I heard God say, first you must adopt. And we both were like, wow, this is so amazing. It's such a wonderful idea. And it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad plan, And once we've managed to have our own biological children, then yes, we will, we'll look at that option because look, nice suggestion, God, but we have plans. So we left it there. We romanticized the idea. We looked at it. We put it away. Thought, yeah. So we carried on. A year went by, a second year went by, and eventually it was getting to a really tough point, and Christy and I were really hurting. We were hurting badly. At one point, people were telling us, listen, you guys need to stop stressing. You need to go on holiday. You need to go on holiday and just relax, and you need to try. And I'm like, listen, that doesn't sound too bad. So we decided we're going to Greece. We're going to go to Greece. We're going to just try all the time. We're going to try as much as... Now listen, you must understand, when you're trying to fall pregnant, slowly but surely everyone eventually becomes aware of this. And everybody wants to give you advice. And wants to tell you, listen, hey honey, I'm literally looking at a whole church full of men and telling them, I did. So say hi to everyone, Chris. Are you there, baby? Release my husband for picking up his phone. Needless to say, I gotta go. I love you. Bye. Good timing, what can I say? That wasn't planned. Anyway, so everyone's giving you advice as to what you should do, how you should do it, and we tried it all. Well, not everything. There's a couple of things you should never try. But the point is, you get all this advice, upside down thing. I don't want to go into it, but use your imagination. There really are people who believe a lot of strange things. So everyone was really invested and they're saying, listen, you need to go on holiday, you need to relax. And so we took it by faith. We said, okay, you know what, we're going to go on holiday, we're going to relax. We went to Greece. We went to Mykonos, went to Santorini. Tom, don't look at your watch. I just started. We had the most amazing holiday. Now, we went for over a month. So before we left, that natural sign that you're not pregnant happened. Everyone with me? Yeah? Okay. So we were there for over a month. So one of our last days, I think our second last day, we were sitting on Santorini, on Kamari Beach, beautiful volcanic beach. We were lying on the beach. We were sun-bronzed now. We've spent weeks in the sun. We've got an ice bucket between us with beer. On the ice, we love beer. We just enjoy that sitting on the beach drinking beer. Not a lot, but every day. I did all of that stuff when I was much younger, drinking. And so the point of the matter is we're lying there. Everything is idyllic. There's some money in our accounts because we're both working actors. We were doing okay. And we're lying in the sun on the beach in Greece. And we are crying our hearts out. We are snot and trane. Ugly cry. Sunglasses on. And the beers are standing untouched between us. And we're lying and we're crying because we are not pregnant. It happened this morning. Now, you need, it needs to be really bad news to be crying on a beach in Greece, in Santorini. We realized that day that we needed to do something. We needed to be more proactive. When we got back from Greece, we immediately started artificial insemination processing. We went to the fertility clinic and we said we want to do this thing, and we didn't want to do in vitro, any of that stuff. We felt that was a bit invasive, but AI, artificial insemination, not that AI, was still something that felt quite natural. They take the sperm cells, they wash them, and then they place them next to the eggs, and it's still natural selection. Which one makes it through? It just makes it easier. My wife suffered from endometriosis, which is quite a common thing, and I suffered from stress, which caused the swimmers to not be so fast in the water, which is very weird because I'm a very good swimmer. So I was quite taken aback by that. But anyway, so the process they use kind of makes it easier. It's still very natural. We thought we'll do that. We did the first one. You go in, and then you a couple of weeks later, they'll phone you, and they say to you, yes or no. The first time, it was no. The second time, it was no. It's about a month between each time. The third time we went, everyone phoned us and said, we've been dreaming. I dreamt you're pregnant. You're having a baby. I had signs and wonders. There were things happening that we knew. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are pregnant this time. I felt it in my bones. We were getting ready. We were excited. And we were waiting for the call because we'd done the whole mission. And I'm on Table Mountain, and you can get signal up there. Actually, I was up there with Christy's sister. Myself, Christy's sister, and the kids were up on there. We were showing them Table Mountain, and lo and behold, I'm on a mountain, and I get the call. I'm thinking, what a perfect place for it. I can see it's them. I can see from the number. I'm like, this is great. We're on a mountain, and God is coming through for us. And finally, and I answered that call, and in the first split second when you answer a call, even before the person has breathed out the first syllable, you already know the news. You're so attuned. And of course, the answer is no. And I remember, up until that point, I'd really tried very hard to be there for my wife, to stand strong, watching every single month as her heart breaks, holding her when she cries and sobs and cries out at God in anger. Why am I not blessed? What a burden it must have been back in the day for a woman not to be able to bear children, when it was so much pressure on them and so much disdain, so much more understandable these days, but that doesn't take away the pain. And so I was trying to be there for her. But I think this time she looked at me and she realized it's my turn to be there for him. Because as I got the news, she was standing next to me. I'd called her over and as I got the news, my whole countenance fell. All the energy went out of me, all the excitement, all the love, all the, and I dropped, and then it got replaced by this anger, and I was so livid. I was so angry because just last week, one of my best friends, not Tom, had phoned me and said, my girlfriend of 2 months has just aborted our child, which we didn't have. And I didn't want, and we decided to do it, and I think it's the right thing because we both aren't ready. And our friendship ended right there and then. I was so angry with him. I said to him, why did you give her to me? Why don't you give the baby to me? I'll take it. And now I'm standing up on this mountain. I said to God, how can you give this man, who at the time wasn't even a Christian, he was agnostic, he was floundering, how can you give him a child? But me, a Christian, who loves you, who's promised you, I will raise Christian children. I will teach them everything I know. I will teach them all I can about you. You don't want my children. I said to him, don't you want my children? And then that voice came again. the one I heard on the other mountain. And he said to me, don't you want mine? When I realized, when I heard that, when I realized what he was saying, that anger left me. Everything left me. All the anger, the hurt, the pain. I suddenly realized that's what he wanted. He hadn't forsaken me. He hadn't forgotten me. He had selected me. He had selected my wife. He respected us enough, loved us enough to trust us with his children. I said to her, I know what we have to do. First, we must adopt. We started the process. She was with me immediately. She was like, man, I'm in. Let's go. I'm tired of all of she was done. She was done with it. She was like, let's go. You know, it was a beautiful moment of unity for us. Long story short, we started the adoption process. And I'm happy to say it's quite a process. Interestingly, 9 months after the day we were sitting on Kamari Beach, Eva, my firstborn, was placed with us. My wife told me this the other day. She said, do you know that that's exactly the timing? Isn't that just beautiful? God had a plan. The night before, I have to just tell you this quickly, I had so much trepidation. So up until that point, we went through such a process to you get cleared, you got to go for police clearance, they come and check your house, psychological evaluations, they really do a great job. It's a lot of preparation, okay? And then you go into the waiting list. Yeah, in the meantime, you can go to safe houses and go and meet babies, hold them, get to know what it feels like to hold a child that's not from you biologically, and break that stigma, because it breaks within hours, within minutes. If you hold a baby that has no parent, you don't understand. You are unlocked as a father, unlocked as a mother. It's the beautiful thing. So we got to that. There was one child that we really had our hearts set on. We felt like this was the right one. Christy was sold. She was like, this is our daughter. I'm like, you can't say that. We have to go through the process. She's like, no, this is our daughter. I wasn't so sure. We went through the process. We put our selection. At that time, you could still select, meet who you'd like to adopt. It's changed now. But at that point, the night before, we were set to go and pick up our daughter. We had been cleared, everything was fine, and this child had been placed with us. And up until that point, every time I was loving this child, but every time I held her in my arms, I had this conflict of spirit. What am I doing? Is this right? I'm changing this child's life. She's changing our lives. It's changing my wife's life, my life. And I realized the night before I was pacing up and down. I just couldn't find peace, man. And I was just like thinking, but God, what if you're wrong? What if I'm hearing you wrong? What if I'm not hearing you? What if this was all a mistake? What if we should have tried one more time? Should we have done in vitro? Should we have done all these other things? What if it doesn't work out? I had this terrible anxiety the night before. And I thought to myself, I just need one more sign, one more wonder. And up until that point, I had so many. I remember phoning my sister. I said to her, I don't know what to do. Angela, she's such an amazing person, woman of God, as is my sister Nikki. I phoned Angela, she'd be closely part of the journey with us. I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Tomorrow, I've got to pick up this girl, this child, and I don't know if it's right. I think I might be making a mistake. What do I do? What do I do? And she said, stop. She said, stop praying for signs and wonders and pray for peace. Oh, jeez. I'm like, wow, okay. Well, I put the phone down. I went to my room. I went to my knees, and I prayed for peace. And I went to bed. I woke up the next morning expecting that anxiety, that adrenaline rush to hit me in the chest. Didn't come. I woke up. I was like, I feel peace. Went on my knees. I said, thank you, Jesus. Got in my car with my wife. She was excited from last year already. She was like, let's go. Get in the car, we drive there, walk in as we do, walk over to little Eva's crib, pull her out. She smiles at me as she does. She hums as she does. She's got this beautiful singing voice, even now. She starts humming, smiling, touching my face, and I'm crying. I'm holding this baby, I'm crying. Because for the first time, I knew I was holding my daughter. 2 years later, we wanted a second child. We didn't even hesitate. We went straight into the adoption process. We trusted God, and we knew that He had a sister for Eva, and we got Shay. And the journey has been exactly the same with her. God's plan for us was much better than what we imagined. In ways I can't even begin to explain to you. There's not time. Now suddenly I'm a father, and I have to figure out how am I going to do this, because these kids are adopted. I have to. They encourage you to tell them they're adopted from the start. You've got nothing to hide. It's a beautiful story. Put a positive spin on it. I'm like, okay, I've got to figure out how to get a positive spin out of this. I've got to figure out all the ways that I can spin this positively. I must look in the Bible. Maybe there's a verse I can use. The more I got into it, the more I realized you don't need to put any spin on adoption. The whole Bible is about adoption. It's a theme throughout the Bible. It's a physical adoption and a spiritual adoption. Both either, or. And some amazing people came out of adoption and went on to do incredible things. Moses comes to mind, led the enslaved people out of Egypt. He was adopted by Pharaoh's daughter. That's what set off that whole journey. Esther was adopted by Mordecai. She later became the queen of Persia. She prevented the massacre of the Jewish people. And of course, the most significant of all, Jesus Christ was adopted by Joseph, Mary's husband. Here, this is interesting. Listen to this. That legitimized him as coming out of the line of David through Joseph by adoption, which is prophesied. Hang on, you say, but many people say that Mary was of the line of David. Well, of the bloodline of David was Mary, of the lineage of David, many argue. And Jesus was adopted into the bloodline of Joseph. So, both bloodline and adopted was covered in that moment of Jesus Christ being the Son of God and the Son of Joseph. It's such an amazing study. We don't have time to get into it, but I encourage you to go and do that. It's beautiful. You know how comforting it is to be able to tell your child, do you know that Jesus Christ was adopted just like you? You know who else was adopted? Every single one of us sitting in this room. Amen. Yeah. Scripture from Galatians 3:26-29 says, "For in Christ you are all sons of God through faith. For as many of you as were baptized into Christ have put on Christ. There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither slave nor free. There is no male, no female. For you are all one in Christ Jesus. And if you are Christ's, then you are Abraham's offspring, heirs according to promise." John 1:12-13 says, "But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God," you said it earlier, "who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God." Listen, I'll never forget the day we received that little paper. It takes a year before they send it to you after you've adopted, the order of adoption from the court of law that states, it's on a slide. I think it's the next one. Yeah, look at that. According to the provision of Section 242 of the Children's Act, number 38 of 2005, your adopted child is now for all purposes regarded as your child as if born to you. And you are now for all purposes regarded as the parent of the adopted child. I didn't highlight it, but if you read further, it says, "Therefore, you are personally responsible to register the child under his or her new name and surname at the Department of Home Affairs." Read that as you are now legally responsible. It's impossible not to draw the parallel of our adoption into God's kingdom. When we enter God's kingdom, we don't enter as second-class citizens. In John MacArthur refers to Roman law when he talks about this. He says, an adopted child was not inferior in Roman law, was not regarded inferior. He was regarded as equal to the biological children. In fact, sometimes parents would adopt a child because he was superior to their children and they needed him for whatever reason. The other thing is quite amazing is that through adoption, you would receive inheritance as would a biological child. You would receive equal inheritance. And what was regarded as inheritance was more secure than anything you purchased. No one could take it from you. I think that's the angle that Paul was coming at when he talks about it. And we're all God's children in the sense that He created us. We know that. But our sin has separated us from God. We know that. We've spoken about it today. It's been the theme throughout. And man walked in the garden with God in His presence. Adam and Eve were in His presence. They had access directly to God. Directly to God. But they were not there by choice. He put them there. Isn't that interesting? People often say, well, why is there a tree of good and evil? Why did He put it there? Why did He even put it there? Well, maybe He planned to put it there. Maybe that was His plan. Listen, God planned before He created the world how He would get us back into the garden. Ephesians 1 verse 4-5 says, for He chose us in Him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in His sight. In love He predestined us to be adopted as His sons and daughters through Jesus Christ in accordance with His pleasure, His will. How? How can God plan anything before we've been made and He knows what we're going to do? When I explain this to my kids, they're like, but how? How does God know what I'm going to do? Does that mean I have a choice? If you think of your life as a beginning and an end, a straight line, and this is where you're born and this is where you die. This is how I explained it to them. So forgive me if it seems patronizing. This is where you're born, this is where you die. And the only way from this point to that point is through time. Time was created when this world we know was created. The creator of time is outside of time. So here's your A, here's your Z, your Z, your beginning, your end. God can see it all at the same time because He exists outside of it. He can see whatever decisions you make in life. He also knows when you choose Him. That's how your name can be in the book of life already. That's how He knows already. He doesn't choose for you. He just already knows what you chose. Isn't that a mind-blowing concept? That He understands us so well, He even knows who and when we choose Him. David Platt also talks on adoption. He reminded me that during our adoption journey, Christy and I planned our adoption before Eva was born. Before Shay was born, we planned it. We had to go through a screening process, legalities. They came to our house. We thought about it. We bought baby things. We got ready. They weren't even born yet. We were anticipating them, thinking about them. Unlike God, we didn't know what their names would be. We didn't know how, maybe the names, but we didn't know what they would look like. We didn't know where they would come from. We didn't know their story. He, of course, does. God's plan has always been to get us back into the garden. He was not surprised that Eve ate of the fruit. Maybe He counted on it. Because, here's another interesting fact. And it makes sense. Children before the age of 12, generally worldwide, don't really have a say when they're adopted because they're too young. But children older than that who get adopted have a say in the legal process of if they get adopted or not. When you get saved, when you're born again, you choose to accept what Christ did for you on the cross. And if you believe on Christ, you get adopted into His family by choice, free choice. And once again, as God has planned, we will get to walk in the garden with Him, this time by choice, free choice. And that's what God wants. He wants us to choose Him freely. He will not force us. We know that. That's why it's every man, every woman, every child, when they get to the right age's choice to say yes or no. I want to check out time quickly, Heinz. Hoeveel tyd het ons? 5 minute. Okay. Nog baie. Listen. God had a plan. We delayed the plan. We didn't stop the plan. We just delayed it by being disobedient to His voice, hesitational. Or another word for that is also hesitant. So, I remember, I'm going to touch on this broadly because you'll understand why. Do you know what the process is of doing artificial insemination? You have to take a sample to the lab. You understand what I'm saying? You have 40 minutes from the creation of that sample to get it to the lab. The first time I tried to create the sample at home and take it to the lab. We live on False Bay. The lab is 35 minutes away. I got there at 30 minutes 5 minutes to spare. I got 5 minutes to get the sample into the fridge. Now picture this man jumping out of a car with a little brown paper packet running, slow motion. Dodging people running. I've got 5 minutes to get this sample into a fridge. Run into the counter. I come to this reception area. Ma'am, where's the fertility clinic? I've got to get this sample up to the second floor. And I'm thinking she's going to go, yes, sir, I know the drill. Follow me, let's go. But instead she says, George! I'm like, what? No. Yes, but no. I need to get this. She goes, can I please have it? And she's going for the fun. I'm like, ma'am, please listen to me. And another nurse behind her is like, realizing what's going on. She goes, Maria, staan net gou. Come with me, sir. Up we go, we're running. There we get the slow motion thing going up the stairs again. Come in, slide in, sample. Fridge open. Check the time. I'm sorry, you're too late. That's the last time I did that. The next time, I decided I'm going to take the sample to the people. You know the whole mountain, if it won't come to you. I went to the mountain people. I went to Vincent Pallotti in an infertility clinic. You sit in the waiting area. You sit there and you wait. And then a beautiful nurse comes and says, Mr. Panagio, that's my full name. Yes. Oh, won't you follow me, please? Then she walks with you and she's got a little brown paper bag in her hand. She takes you into a room with blinds and a basin and a couch and a lamp. She closes the blinds. She switches on the lamp. And then she looks at you and smiles and says, I'll be right outside. The door closes behind me. I'm standing there. Everybody out there knows what's going to happen in this room. And I'm thinking, should I hurry up or take my time? Because both have implications. Needless to say, I came out, handed the sample to her, and I got skedaddled out of that fertility clinic. I can't leave out this part. At one point, I'm standing in the room. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know. There's magazines next to the lamp. I walk over to the magazines. On the cover, one of my friends. I was like, okay, that's not going to happen. Not going to tell you who it was. Christy knows. Anyway, the point is, it was rough, you know. And you get into the car. Now I look back and I can see God laughing. He's like, I did not tell you to do that. That's on you, my friend. That's all on you. I've got so much more to say, and you know, like Heinz said, you know, one can stand up here and just wax lyrical about what we've experienced as men. It's hard. It's hard to be a man, especially these days. I want to encourage you all. We'll never be perfect. We will mess up, and then our kids will try not to do what we did, like we're trying not to do what our parents did. But we do need a rule of thumb. Now, the whole Bible is full of how to be a father. But if we can go to Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 13, we know this very well. It's all about love. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It's not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. What a beautiful description of love. Heinz, I think you said it earlier. God is love. We know that. And here he's describing what love is. And if we want to be like God and fathers like him, I thought, why don't we just use this verse as sort of a rule of thumb? And on the next I made a list. And if you replace love with a father, well, a father is patient and kind as he instructs and disciplines his children. He does not envy or boast. He teaches and practices humility. He's not arrogant or rude. He practices grace. He does not insist on his own way, but on God's way. He's not irritable or resentful, but patient and forgiving, unlike me last night. He does not rejoice at wrongdoing. He is just. He bears all things. He endures hardships. He believes all things. He chooses to trust. He hopes all things, always a positive attitude, and love never ends. He loves his children endlessly and unconditionally. We can look at that, and when we say, how do I be a better father, a better husband? There it is, it's written, it's in plain sight. So, no pressure. We can't be perfect fathers, as I say, but we can follow our Father, who is a perfect Father, and He fills the hurt and the wounds that you spoke about earlier, and Henry as well. He fills that space. And if you, I just want to encourage you, I want to leave you with this. If you feel right now, oh, bugger, I'm going to have to adopt. That's not what this is about. You will know if adoption has been placed in your heart, if you've been selected for that. There are many ways to being a parent. Listen, and this is possibly the most important. It's easy to become a parent, a biological parent, and even an adoptive parent. It's hard to be a father. Both of those, thank you. Both of those carry weight and responsibility. Just like when you say, I'm a Christian, it's easy to say it. I'm adopted into God's family, but it comes with a responsibility, and we must not take it lightly. We will walk again with God in the garden, in absolute peace in His presence, and everyone's invited.